One thing that's helped me stay motivated and excited when designing my islands is creating a mood board before getting started. So let me walk you through my process today. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I don't know about you, but my Animal Crossing motivation has had a surge lately. I have big plans to finish some of my islands this year and, more importantly, to get started on some new ideas right after. And one of my favorite things to do is prep for a new island with a mood board amongst some other things. They're really fun to put together, and truthfully, I would say they help me stay motivated and inspired. And because I've gotten a few questions about how I make them before, I decided to sit down and actually do a guide. Let's go ahead and get started. So I create all of my mood boards, or any other graphic really, using Canva. Canva is an online graphic design program, and all you need to do is either go to canva.com or download their app, and then we can pretty much get started right away. And also, as a side note, this is not sponsored, by the way. I do really wish though. Now, before we really deep dive into the mood board process, I will walk you through a couple of the main functions of Canva. If you are already familiar with it, there will be timestamps with which you can hop to us getting started on the actual mood board process. So when you go onto their website, you will get a bunch of options on what to design. I usually just click on create a design in the top right corner. In this, you can either choose one of these suggested options or also go with a custom size design. And this is usually what I will do, and then I'll just put in 1920 by 1080 as that is the basic video format. But if you wanted this to be, for example, an Instagram post or generally a smaller size, feel free to change that up for sure. Lots of social media file sizes can be found online. Another little side note, Canva does have a paid Canva Pro plan that lets you use a bunch more options and elements, and anything that will be restricted to that plan will be marked with a little crown. You can definitely make these mood boards without using the Canva Pro features though. Once you have your design opened up, there are basically three main areas: the toolbar up ahead, all the different design options on the left, and of course, your canvas itself. For the toolbar, the main important things will probably be the undo and redo buttons. You can give your design a name, like ACNH mood boards, for example, and then the option to either share it via social media or also download it. And then let's get to the most important part, your design options. Now, templates can be somewhat fun in this, and feel free to take as much time as you want, of course, just kind of browsing through everything, but I personally find that they're not really all that useful for Animal Crossing just because the aesthetic is a little bit too real-life-esque. The most important areas here will be elements, text, and uploads. Elements can be pretty much anything, from shapes and stickers to picture grids and frames. And each element will then usually give you a few more design options where you can change, for example, its size, but also the colors, among other things. This will make more sense as soon as we start to use it later on. The text part is probably pretty self-explanatory. We can change the font and the size, and then also play around with a bunch more options, especially the effects one can be fun. And then under the uploads category, you can basically just upload your own pictures and graphics, and this will be quite important for us in a little bit. And last but not least, a few options when it comes to your actual design page. You can go ahead and add another page to your design. This way, for example, you could have one design file for all of your different mood boards. You can then also change the order, or of course delete it again. And you can also duplicate a page if, for example, you want to replicate the layout or maybe do a comparison of two similar versions, etc. And then in this bottom row, you can also zoom in and out, show all of your designs, or show the one that you're currently working on as full screen. And now that we got the basic Canva part down, let's go ahead and get started. I kind of looked at my mood boards and my usual process, and I realized that there's a few different categories that you can always find on there, and also kind of an order in which I put them there. Name and or theme, main colors, Inspo Pictures, villagers, nature stuff, items. Sometimes I also like to add areas, a background, and finally some details to tie it together. As I show and explain this to you, I will actually be creating a mood board myself for my botanical garden island, but I will also show you a couple more examples along the way. I like to actually get started by putting my island name down right in the center. At this point, I found a couple of fonts and colors that I usually really like, but they let you easily browse through some specific styles, so just take a second to kind of find something that speaks to you. You can always also come back to this later on. You can make it look even more special by adding an effect on it. In this case, I actually kind of like the splice option. If you don't have an island name just yet, you could also put down a placeholder for now, or also put your theme on there, or of course, just put the theme in addition to the name. Once I have that down, I like to think about the main colors, for which I will go over to the elements category. I like to either use some shapes or actually search for something like brush stroke. Whenever a graphic gives you this option at the top, you can also change its color, which is perfect for us. And then using these colors, I also like to give my writing some type of backdrop. So I'll make the element big enough and then right click it, go to layer and click on send to back. There we go. Little tip on the side, it definitely does make sense to keep the Animal Crossing capabilities in mind when it comes to colors. So kind of just think about the available flower or item colors. Again though, we can always return to this in the future once we get a bit more stuff on here. And then you can of course always change the size of each element. You can also rotate it or even flip it to change some things up. In my case, I will be focusing on mostly neutral colors and of course lots of green for the botanical garden, but I also might include a couple of color specific builds using some orange, yellow, or blue later on. And as you can see, I also decided to include the colors with the font as well. Now that we have some basics put down, let's also get a bit more specific. I do like to include some inspo pictures on my mood boards. These can be either real life inspo or also maybe an Animal Crossing picture that you found on either Instagram or Pinterest. Or something I also really love is to include a picture of a build that I did using the DLC. Let's actually go and find a cute frame for this one. I kind of like this one because we can even further include our main colors. You can also go ahead and search for some inspiration right in Canva as well. Just type in your keywords and find your favorite picture. These can however often be restricted to Canva Pro though, but once you found one that you like, you can just drag it onto the frame. And if you're trying to get pictures either from your game or from like Pinterest in here, you just go to the upload section and add them in, and from there it's basically the same process. In my case, I actually have something on this island kind of built up already that I can also just use for the vibe inspo, so let's go ahead and do that as well. And then just because I think it's cute, I also like to add a little bit of washi tape to these frames. Awesome. Let's move on to the next category, villagers. Now, because I usually have very themed islands, my villagers also often fit those exact vibes, and so I love to have them on my mood board. Additionally, I kind of take this as an opportunity to look for the ones that I like. Let's go on to Google. So my favorite thing to do is to go through the different personality types, so I'll just search up something like ACNH lazy, for example. You could also search by species though. And then I like to look for the animalcrossing.fandom link. This page does hit you with a bunch of ads and you have to scroll like a bit, but then at some point you finally get to the actual villagers. The ones that look all blurry here are usually ones from like previous games that don't actually exist in New Horizons, so we just pay no attention to them. And now you browse through and just choose the ones that you think fit, either because you like them or because their colors match, or maybe there's a cute storyline in your head. For your mood board, you could either go for your final lineup of 10 villagers, or what you can also do is just add a couple more and then pick and choose later on. The ones you like, just click on them and right click to save their picture. Or if you don't want their outfit on the mood board, I actually saw Tay Crossings put their little avatars on it. To get those pictures, you would just search up something like ACNH Flurry Head. And there you go. Truthfully, I was like very indecisive when it came to this island's villagers because it all started as just wanting everyone who's kind of cute to now maybe paying more attention to the theme. But as with every other category, it's okay if you change your mind about this in the future. It's just supposed to give you like a little bit of a starting point and idea. Who do you think would fit a botanical garden island? You might also reevaluate some of your villagers as your search goes on, or even get some ideas for island designing. Like I, for example, thought it might be super cute to put Walker and Goldie together, but then I didn't want a third dog, so I decided to get rid of Fred. And I also thought of Buck and Winnie in an area together, or Plan Bam for a blue themed part. Once I more or less have my villagers together, I try to assemble them on the mood board so they kind of like fit in. So this is just a bunch of resizing and moving them around. Awesome, another thing checked off. Let's move on to the category that I refer to as nature stuff. So in my island planning process, I try to kind of think about the season that I would like to play in, and also what types of trees, shrubs, and flowers I want to use. And they're like a big part of the final vibe, so I do try to bring them onto the mood board in this step. For trees, I will go and search up each type, like ACNH hardwood tree, and then this Wikipedia link even gives me all the different seasons as well. I will grab the green one. I will do the same for cedar and bamboo trees because I want to use all of those. And of course, you can also do that with coconut trees as well. We will just randomly put them on the board for now. And then the next thing is flowers. And with that, let me introduce you to Nook.exchange. We will get quite comfy with this site going forward because this is like my go-to website to look up any item like ever. In the top left, you can apply a couple of filters that make browsing a lot easier. For now, let's select Other in the category drop-down menu. This will be any dropped items, or like you can see those in-game pocket icons. And I will also go ahead and select A to Z as my sort by filters. And now you can scroll through this entire list and save all the pictures of all the flowers that you plan on using. I kind of prefer the dropped item pictures here because they look more like the actual thing that you end up decorating with. And if you already, for example, know that you want to use just white flowers, you can also of course type in white in the search bar in addition to your other filters, and that should hopefully also make the sorting a bit easier. Also, a little side note here, even though I love to use them on my island, I never really add the shrubs to my mood board because I don't like these icons, and they also rarely ever bloom in my DAs anyways. What I do like to add though is the glowing moss and weeds. And also throughout this process, feel free to have another list on the side with a couple of notes on what you plan on using, like the dropped items or also just any area ideas that you get. And now that we got all those pictures saved, let's also add those to our mood board as well. I will actually go ahead and add some of those things twice if I want to use them especially often. I will mainly be using neutral flowers, but then depending on the area, I might also add a bit of blue, orange, and yellow. And once we've put them all on the board, let's just kind of move them around a little bit or maybe create some little groups, kind of spread them all across the board. By the way, if this happens to you as well, you can also go ahead and lock the frame picture in. Click on the frame and then lock the position and the picture itself. Perfect. And you can also always change the position of an item, so like if they're layered on top of or underneath something else, either by right-clicking or also selecting the position option at the very top and then changing it there. And with all of those put on, let's move on to items. As you can imagine, this is a rather big category, but it is a really fun one, and it works very similarly to the previous one. Once again, we will go on to Nook.exchange. This time, we will go into the housewares category and once again sort this from A to Z. These are quite a few items, as you can see, so you can further kind of bring this down and section it by only showing either orderable, craftable, or not orderable items. Orderable is anything that you might get through Nook Shopping, craftable is any DIY item, and the not orderable are art pieces, as well as like seasonal things or anything that you get using Nook Miles. And then let's take our time and browse through. Anything you think will be an important item, click on it, select the desired color, and once again, save the picture. In this process, you can basically be as general or as detailed as you want. So I like to kind of go for items that I know I will use like repeatedly on the items and just anything that kind of makes sense for the island theme. In this specific case, that'll be lots of plants or also like natural looking items, of course. And then you can repeat this process for any categories that you think will be important, of course. For me, after going through all the different houseware sections, I will also do this for miscellaneous, and because they're very important for this island, the gyroids as well. Fencing can also be a good one. Unfortunately though, they don't have the customized fence options. With this being such a big category, this can kind of take a while, but I personally find it a really fun process, and it kind of lets you get to know the items and the possibilities in the game, which usually gets me really hyped to start building. A little shameless self-promo here. If you need a little bit of company, my long play videos are perfect for this. I will go ahead and link them down below. Oh, and also by the way, this serves as a great cheat sheet if you're planning to do some treasure island trips or just need some item inspo in the moment. Once you have gone through and saved all the pictures that you want for now, let's get them onto our mood board. Once again, it can make sense to kind of follow the different categories to break up the mass of stuff. I will start with the housewares and upload all those pictures to Canva and then implement them one by one. And again, I kind of like to create little groups of things. So I will stack boxes on top of each other, create fences, or little display areas with a few stools or benches together, creating some surfaces. And then in the next step, when I add the miscellaneous things, I actually put put them on those surfaces. And then in my case, like I said, I even went ahead and added a few gyroids wherever I could find room, because these will be the little workers in my garden. I barely have any space for other stuff with this specific mood board, but something I have done before is add a couple of certain area ideas. So feel free to add those as well, or once again, just kind of have a separate list on the side. In this entire process, you might get some ideas for what you want to build in your island, and then the best thing to do is to basically write it down somewhere. And now let's try and finish this mood board. One thing I don't really love as of right now is the white background. So you could either go in and just change it to a different solid color. Let me also show you a cool Canva feature here that might be useful for adjusting your key colors as well. When you go to adjust the color, it actually shows up this photo colors tab that gives you a few swatches from the pictures that you've used. So this is kind of better, but not quite it for me, because my favorite thing is actually to use one of my Animal Crossing inspo photos. Let's add that onto the mood board, and then we'll right click it and set image as background. And then to make this a little bit more calm and cohesive, we'll click on the picture and select edit photo, and then find the blur option. Here I will go onto the whole image tab and usually select something around 30. And then once we exit out, there we go. Now it has kind of the ACNH vibe, but it just ties the whole thing together. So the only thing left to do now is give this a couple of finishing touches, like including a few more elements, if you want to. In my case, I kind of wanted to see if I can find some leaves or plants or anything similar, but then actually quickly decided that my mood board was full enough. On a previous kidcore mood board that I did though, I actually ended up using some cute patterns in the background and then also some like chalk drawings of the sun and some flowers. And there we go. This, or somewhat like this, is how I usually create my mood boards. I also did the same thing for a romantic coastal retreat island before. This is the one I'm decorating in my Let's Play. Or I also did this for my fall-themed 14-day challenge island Hokkaido. Or then of course the mint and orange kidcore island that I was showing before. I even did a mood board for the Once Upon a Time island I made with my friend, and also for my current Encanto island. Here the end result was slightly different though, due to all those references that need to be thought of. I actually like to look at my mood boards every once in a while when I'm decorating to get a little bit more inspiration for like the general vibe again, or even for specific items that I could use. I hope that this video was helpful to you. I would love to hear about your island ideas in the comments, and if you decide to create a mood board and you post that somewhere, I would love to see it, so feel free to link me. And then the only thing left for you to do now is give this video a like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and then I will hopefully see you in my next video. Bye everyone!